What is going on, everybody? Quancredible here, and today we are going to be talking about Seven Deadly Sins Cursed by Light. And this is going to be a review. So, obviously, if you have not seen the movie, there will be movie spoilers in this review, as well as if you haven't finished, Seven Deadly Sins, the anime did recently put all of the rest of it is on Netflix, as well as it's been on the internet for a while now. So, there will be spoilers for that. So, tread carefully as you go into it. And as some of you may or may not be aware, I do cover the sequel series of Seven Deadly Sins, Four Nights of Apocalypse. That is a thing. So I will not be spoiling any of the events in Four Nights of Apocalypse that could or possibly relate to the movie in this video. Just because if there aren't people that haven't seen or read that series yet or aren't into it yet, I don't want to spoil them. But if you haven't checked out Four Nights of Apocalypse yet, make sure you like the video as well. Subscribe to the channel for more content. They release chapters every week, and I cover them weekly as well as videos in between. However, that is enough of that. We are going to be getting into the video now that all the disclaimers are out of the way. So all in all, the movie honestly was pretty decent. It actually was not that bad. I enjoyed it a lot for what it was. The movie really is set up into two semi-distinct halves on, the very first set of antagonists and then the very second. In the beginning of the movie, it is with the two people that are attacking the demon realm, being Dubs and Dyla. They just launch a all-out attack on the demon realm while leaving some of them alive just so they can carry on the message that they were attacked. This is all for their greater goal of destroying the seven deadly sins that ruined the holy war. Now, at the same time, this is kind of taking place in between the last and second to last episode of Seven Deadly Sins, somewhere in between there. It is 6 months after they defeated the Demon King, while Meliodas and Elizabeth are on their honeymoon. So they're kind of just traveling around Britannia chilling, while at the same time, Zeldris is also doing the same thing. Him and Gelda, they're not getting married, but they are just traveling around Britannia chilling, not just kind of taking it easy, while also simultaneously the other third group involved in this would be the group getting ready for King and Diane's wedding, which is where the remainder of the sins are, not including Merlin. Now, one of the immediate things that I really did enjoy about this movie that they set up in the very beginning is that this movie really isn't so much focused on the seven deadly sins as much as it is more so focused on the relationship between Meliodas and Zeldris. As you know, they kind of became somewhat closer towards the end of Seven Deadly Sins, despite having a lot of their own differences. But the movie is truly about them two growing closer as brothers, which makes sense that they would have trouble kind of relating to one another, considering how everything went down during the Holy War 3,000 years ago, and even in the current story, how everything went down. That their relationship is kind of estranged a little bit, and it also makes sense too because we also get a closer look into how Meliodas thinks about family, and even in the very beginning, he talks about how he doesn't really know how family is supposed to be, considering his relationship with his dad, as well as he doesn't feel like he's been a good brother to Zeldris, which all these things are true. So for all intents and purposes, Meliodas has never actually had a real family or had a true family experience, so he doesn't kind of know the nuances to it, which Elizabeth does reassure him of during the movie. But it's just kind of really nice to see how Meliodas and Zeldris do go closer through their interactions together. And also Zeldris, even in the original series, is one of my favorite characters, so to see him kind of be more in the spotlight of this movie is nice to see.
It's actually quite nice.
So while Meliodas and Elizabeth are roaming Britannia, they do come across a very strong magical presence that they do find out is Zeldris with Gelda, as I was saying earlier. And those two, while they are together, sense a even smaller presence that is one of the demons that was attacked by the two mysterious figures that basically got out to kind of warn or kind of tell Zeldris about it. And this prompts those two to go back to the demon realm to kind of figure out what the cause of this is. But when those two get there, they are greeted by the two people that attacked the demon realm, which one of them was Dubs, the master craftsman of the giant clan, and Dyla, the second fairy king, which is really crazy because these two characters that are the first set of antagonists for this movie were actually relatively important to the story of Seven Deadly Sins, despite us not ever seeing them at all in the main series. So Dubs was the person that created the coffin of eternal darkness, as well as the person that created Lost Vein. I want to say he also had a hand in inventing the other sacred treasures, but basically this dude is in charge of making some of the most craziest things that we get to see utilized in Seven Deadly Sins. And the other guy, Dyla, just being the second fairy king, who in the midst of the war after Gloxina left, at least sometime after, it's not really stated how much time after, he became the Fairy King after that, but he really didn't want to have anything to do with the whole alliance and with the war and all that, so he just kind of left and disappeared on his own. That's kind of all we really know about him. But these two both show up and they are attacking the demon realm. Now, in their initial confrontations, Meliodas and Zeldris do lose. You can kind of like blame this in part of Meliodas isn't really fighting super seriously. Like, I'm not like one of those Meliodas apologists, but Meliodas really just isn't taking a lot of things seriously at this point. So he does get captured by Dubs. One big thing to note with Meliodas' fight is that he was utilizing Lost Vein, which, since Dubs did create it, Dubs' ability is kind of weird. None of the weapons or tools he used can really be utilized effectively against him. He can kind of control what they do despite him not wielding them because he created them, which is kind of, it's such a nuanced ability to like he's only kind of good against people that have like his gear, or unless they're like just way below what he makes. So that's kind of why Meliodas did get captured. And Zeldris more or less just got incapacitated. I kind of don't really have any doubt if Zeldris would have had a moment to kind of really go all out, he probably would have been fine. I kind of think it was just the fact that the second Fairy King Dyla did have very strong magical power, but his stuff was mostly into strength. Like, he was a more of a brawler, which was a lot for Zeldris to handle without using his ominous nebula ability, which he kind of can't let off in that kind of area just because Gelda is kind of right there. So Zeldris is going to do anything to not put Gelda in danger. So he's not going to really let that off right there because he doesn't want to accidentally hurt her, because Omni's Nebula doesn't necessarily target, kind of just sucks in whatever. So he is also temporarily incapacitated by Dyla, which gets him like knocked out. Now these two are kind of out of the picture for a little bit. We then get to flashback over to the King and Diane wedding, with those two just getting married and then being attacked by, you know, that combined group of fairies and giants. Now King is able to recognize that they are being controlled by a power that is very similar to the second Fairy King Dallas, and King is able to dispel it. However, the weapons that they're holding on to, created by Dubs, is maintaining the mind control. So I guess these two things together is what was controlling the fairies and the giants. So with Bond's snatch ability and King's ability to dispel it, you know, everybody's pretty much brought back to their senses. We also get to see a bit of Mao after this, with him kind of like bringing life back to the celestial realm, or the goddess realm, whatever you want to call it, replanting just a lot of the greenery up there, while he is greeted by a bunch of other like goddess clan members, which is really interesting. So when it flashes back over to Zeldris and Meliodas, Zeldris is kind of more just embarrassed that he lost in such a way and doesn't seem fit to be a demon king. However, the demons are waiting for him to lead, and with like encouraging words from Gelda, he does like kind of feel back confident again, and he does plan to rescue his brother, which a lot of the other demons are still really iffy on Meliodas, because Meliodas did betray them, which, you know, even if it was for the greater good, it still did happen. While Zeldris basically explains, you know, the old demon king didn't really treat you guys well at all, and I do plan on treating you guys well. And it kind of just really reinforces that the demons, despite them being demons, they do kind of still have feelings, which is odd to say that demons have feelings, but in the realm of Seven Deadly Sins, they do. Like, they don't want to be used, you know, like it's like, I don't want to say they're still people, because they're not, but they do still feel. While over in Meliodas' realm, Meliodas is unable to break out. He did try to slash it, he just couldn't get out, so he just decides to chill there and wait to be rescued. And it's kind of funny because when Zeldris does inevitably get there, he's like, you could have broken out, you just can't use Lost Vein to do it, because that's just how Dub set it up. So if Meliodas was just thinking or cared enough, he could have used his power on his own to break out of there. So this kind of just goes in hand with the running theme of Meliodas in this movie, of him not really trying super hard. Now I have no doubt that those two could have beat their initial opponents if they did a rematch, but they decided to take the easy way and swap opponents. This put Dubs versus Zeldris and Dyla versus Meliodas. Now Dubs versus Zeldris is pretty much this is a easy clap. I mean, they're both easy claps, but this was an easy clap for Zeldris. Dubs just has really nice equipment, whereas Zeldris is just nice on his own. He is not able to really do anything to Zeldris at all, and especially in the face of his Ominous Nebula. The fight with Meliodas and Dyla was really funny, because Dyla's just like going all out on Meliodas, trying everything, and Meliodas doesn't even care about any of it. Like, Meliodas beating this dude barehanded really doesn't even need Lost Vein. It just shows like how much stronger these two brothers are over these two guys. Now when these two are defeated, a burst of power does release from them, which Elizabeth recognizes it as cheat hope, which is something of the goddess clan. It's an ability for them, because even Meliodas and Zeldris were saying that they are much stronger than they should actually be, and that something seemed odd about them, and it turns out they were being controlled as well. So these guys were controlling the fairies and the giants, and they themselves were also being controlled. And at the same time, we do see Mal flying back to the kingdom of Leonis. He was attacked by the goddess clan, because the goddess clan is trying to carry out the will of the supreme deity, who's trying to eliminate the 7 deadly sins for ruining the holy war. And another thing I want to touch on is the stuff about Mal kind of getting beat up, because I feel like there's going to be people that are going to be upset about that. You got to think about it. Mael is not trying to hurt his own people, and I don't believe Mael got Sunshine back, because when Escanor does die, he kind of dies with Sunshine without being able to give it back to him. So I'm not for sure if that grace just went back to the supreme deity, or if it did go back to Mal, but he doesn't showcase it at all or anything similar to it in this movie. So for all intents and purposes, I'm going to believe that he does not have it. However, with that, the supreme deity does finally make her inevitable appearance. That small group of 7 deadly sins members, being Gother, Diane, King, and Bond, do attempt to hold her off to the best of their ability. Diane and Gother really can't do much to the supreme deity, just because of how they fight. And King can't really do much because his magic is too similar to her own. It's kind of like a hierarchy thing, like where her magic is probably like just a more enhanced version of his, so he's unable to affect her, leaving the only person that can kind of do anything to her is Bond. While she had a hard time killing or damaging Bond because of all the experience he gained in Purgatory, Bond just lacked the actual abilities to damage her. The supreme deity is also similar to the Demon King in how like magical attacks didn't work on him, physical attacks don't work on her, so they're kind of at a major disadvantage here, seeing as their main magical attacker King really is kind of nerfed in this fight, since his powers don't quite work on her despite being mostly magical. And Merlin is off with Arthur and doesn't make an appearance for this fight, neither one of them do, so they really can't do much to help them at all either. So the supreme deity wasn't like crazy impressive in her fighting against these 7 deadly sins, because she kind of only just spammed lightning, which isn't like anything too crazy, and she really couldn't kill Bond with it all like that. He didn't seem to be affected by the lightning all like that. So she does eventually start to charge up a more powerful spell to take them all out. However, this is full countered by Meliodas, who does arrive in the nick of time to save everybody. And then from here we do get this amazing fight between Meliodas and the supreme deity, and it does look amazing. Like the animation in this movie throughout the movie was actually really good. And one thing to keep in mind is that Meliodas is more or less using his full power against the supreme deity. You have to remember, Meliodas, despite at the very end of the Demon King fight having access to power that was even greater than the Demon King, he relinquished this power to destroy the 10 Commandments. So he doesn't have access to like his super crazy Demon King forms, even though he never used it. He just does not have access to it because he straight up sacrificed it. And the assault mode, you can kind of interpret this a lot of different ways. You could see it as Meliodas. You can see as Meliodas's full demon mark, it does encompass what assault mode is, despite his appearance not changing. So you could see this as the kind of state he is in during the fight with the supreme deity would be equivalent to whatever his assault mode power would be. Or you could take it as Meliodas does not wish to use his assault mode because that form does somewhat rob him of some of his emotions, so he does not want to go down that road at all. For me personally, I kind of prefer the latter one, just because it kind of keeps Meliodas' power intact and doesn't make it seem like he was significantly weaker in this fight than he was in the Demon King fight. But if people want to see it other ways, I could totally understand. If you could see it a different way, I would love to hear that in the comments. I'd be very curious to know what people could think of for that one, but that's kind of what I think. As well as in this fight, he does have Zeldris in more or less full power to help him against the supreme deity, and everyone is a bit stronger for this fight, so it kind of makes sense that they were faring a lot better against her and had a much easier time against her, seeing as everyone's more or less like since everyone is definitely stronger. And those two together, she is defeated by a combo attack between Zeldris and Meliodas. It was dope to see. I really did love it. And she's ultimately defeated. Now, one crazy thing here is we do learn what they mean by the term ruined the holy war, because since the Demon King and the supreme deity are now gone, chaos is now free to roam the lands, because if you remember back, Chaos is the one that created the Demon King as well as the Supreme Deity. However, those two worked together to seal Chaos away. They didn't defeat Chaos, they just sealed it away so that they could be the highest beings, and they were, I guess, essentially the rulers of everything now, since, like, no one's more powerful than those two. So whatever their conditions are, this game that they seem to play, as it's called in the movie, to kind of fight back and forth endlessly. Like, this is kind of just what they do. They fight back and forth endlessly because it's all just a big game to them. But I kind of do believe that it does have an actual purpose, in that's probably one of the conditions of why Chaos is sealed, is now that Chaos is sealed, those two have to constantly wage war against each other, which is why they never wanted the war to end, because they did not want Chaos to come back, because they seen their rule as a better alternative to whatever Chaos has in store. And this sets up perfectly for whatever is going to happen with Arthur. Throughout this movie, we only get to see Arthur like 2 or 3 times, and in our initial seeing of Arthur, he's burying all of Camelot. Everyone who died in Camelot, he personally made a burial for. So this is kind of like, you can really see a small descent for Arthur here. And even at the very end of the movie, after the Supreme Deity is confirmed defeated, Merlin does come back to Arthur and say that the Age of Gods is over, and thus the Age of Chaos for humanity begins. So with that, it definitely perfectly segues us into Four Nights of Apocalypse, which, if you do not know, you need to know it. You definitely should check that series out, because it does continue on. The story of Seven Deadly Sins does continue on in that. However, that would be the end of the movie. Now, honestly, I did enjoy the movie a lot for what it was, especially once I watched it watched it a second time for this video. I kind of got to pick up on a lot of the things that I may have missed. Now, one thing, I wouldn't be too upset that, like, say, Dubs didn't really make an appearance in the original series, because his works are in the series. Like, the things he created is in the series, so that's not too much of a big deal to me. He's not necessarily a fighter, so it makes sense that he wouldn't really be in there. As well as the second Fairy King did not wish to be involved in any of this in the first place, so it would make sense that he never reappeared for any of this. And now those things kind of make sense. Now, why they weren't attacked or tracked down at some point in time, not really for sure why they wouldn't have been, but it's no big deal, seeing as character wise those two wouldn't have wanted to be involved regardless. And that kind of wasn't the 10 Commandments priority. It was to attack them, it was to find the 7 deadly sins. So I guess I'm not too upset that these two characters never made a direct appearance. And same thing for the Supreme Deity. She was asleep all these years after the Coffin of Eternal Darkness had went off, so it makes sense that she was not really in the fight at all. The only thing that is a little iffy is how she let the Coffin of Eternal Darkness kind of slip under her radar. I kind of think that everyone was okay with the Coffin of Eternal Darkness going off, because it didn't necessarily truly end the Holy War in terms of killing one of the two to maintain their battle, their battle so that Chaos wouldn't come back, but it did kind of put it on hold. So I kind of do believe that the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, like, I feel like if she would have completely knew what it was, she might not have wanted it to go off. Seeing as, despite the Goddess Clan, being the ones to set it off, it was more or less Merlin's idea, which was, everything Merlin has done in the story has been to further Chaos. So we just have to kind of more so wait until we see more in Four Nights Apocalypse, so to really get more of the idea on Chaos. Aside from that, we do get to see the wedding for Meliodas. I did find this other part kind of funny when I forgot to mention this earlier. I did find this other part kind of funny when Meliodas does finally arrive, and Diane is upset that they scheduled their honeymoon at the same time as their wedding, but it turns out that King and Diane just both forgot the actual date of their wedding. They had it a month earlier than they were supposed to, which is really funny to me, because, like, it makes perfect sense when you think about it, because King, being a fairy, Diane being a giant, their perception of time is much different than everyone else's, especially those two, since those two especially don't have a good perception of time, which has been kind of hinted at and noted at multiple times throughout the series. So them two forgetting that their wedding was supposed to be a month later, it was just kind of funny to me. I really did enjoy the movie for what it was. I really did. I give it like a solid 7 or like 8. It was really good, and I think a lot of the elements of it will segue nicely into the sequel. So whether they do another movie or not is kind of up in the air. I know that this movie released in theaters over in Japan, and it did not bad. I want to say it was like ranked 3rd. I don't know the exact amount of money it did, but ranking 3rd in your opening weekend is never bad. I feel like that is never bad. But let me know how you guys felt about the movie down below. I am curious to see you guys' opinions on how you guys felt about it. Did you guys enjoy the movie? Did you guys hate the movie? Like, how did you guys feel about it all. Like any questions you guys have, let's definitely talk about it. So definitely make sure you do check out 4 Nights of Apocalypse if you are craving more Seven Deadly Sins after finishing the series and watching this movie. It is still in its very, very early stages with about like 33, 34 or so chapters out right now, which is a decent bit. We have seen some characters from the old series, but not all of them yet. But it does looks like we are going to see a lot more of them going forward into the series. So definitely check it out if you want to. I'll leave a couple links on where to find some of the chapters down below, as well as it is on the Crunchyroll manga app. I don't know how many people are absolute nerds like me and have that app, but that is where one of the places where I read it. So definitely make sure you guys check it out. And if you haven't yet, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you guys can check out more of my content about 4 Nights of Apocalypse. So make sure you guys like the video, subscribe, and I hope all you guys enjoy the rest of your day. So I'll see you all in my next video.